Thank you for joining me today. My name is Alan Porter, and I'm the CEO of Strategic Wealth Strategies. I'm a certified financial fiduciary and a certified tax and business advisor. Before we get into today's topic, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and why I became so passionate about helping people prepare for retirement. Because if there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's that financial planning isn't really about money. It's about protecting the people you love. It's about having choices. It's about making sure a financial surprise doesn't become a life-changing event. I grew up in Nebraska and married my high school sweetheart. Like many young people at the time, I was trying to figure out what direction my life would take. This was during the Vietnam era, and I had a very low draft number. It was highly likely that I would be drafted. A recruiter approached me and explained that if I enlisted, there were opportunities that might keep me out of Vietnam, but I would need to choose a combat arms specialty. I chose armor and became a tank commander. At the time, I thought I had my future figured out. Then one day, something happened that completely changed my direction. I had been out on tank gunnery exercises for almost 2 weeks. I was covered in dirt, exhausted, and hadn't seen a shower in what felt like forever. A helicopter landed nearby. The pilot stepped out wearing a clean flight suit, Ray-Ban sunglasses, and carrying himself with confidence. I remember looking at him and thinking to myself, that's what I want to do. That single moment changed my life. I applied for flight training and eventually became an Army aviator. Over the years, I flew several different aircraft and eventually became an instructor pilot. My final years in the military were spent as a Black Hawk standardization instructor pilot, training other pilots and ensuring they met the highest standards of safety and performance. I retired from the Army in 1993. People often ask me what the military taught me that still applies today. My answer is simple. The military taught me that success rarely happens by accident. Every mission started with planning. Before we ever took off, we studied the terrain. We reviewed the weather. We evaluated risks. We discussed contingencies. We asked ourselves difficult questions. What happens if something goes wrong? What happens if conditions change? What happens if our original plan no longer works? We didn't wait until we were in the middle of a crisis to start planning. We planned beforehand. That lesson has stayed with me my entire life. Unfortunately, many people approach retirement very differently. They spend 30 or 40 years building assets and then hope everything works out. They assume taxes will take care of themselves. They assume healthcare costs won't be a major issue. They assume their retirement accounts will somehow produce the income they need. Hope is not a strategy, planning is. After retiring from the Army, I entered the business world. I built a successful real estate career and later a mortgage business. Things were going well. Then the financial crisis of 2008 happened. Many people watching this today probably remember that period. Businesses closed. Retirement accounts dropped dramatically. Home values declined. People who thought they were secure realized they were far more exposed. One of the lessons I learned during that period was that what appears safe isn't always safe. Economic conditions change, markets change, tax laws change. The future rarely unfolds exactly as we expect. That's why flexibility and preparation matter so much. But even that wasn't the event that ultimately changed my life. The event that changed my life was much more personal. In December of 2009, my wife and I traveled to Arkansas to spend Christmas with my son, his wife Lynn, and my 2 granddaughters. At the time, my son had already been struggling with serious health issues and was unable to work. Financially, things were difficult. A few weeks later, on January 5th, 2010, my daughter-in-law Lynn called me. She said, "Alan, I've been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer." She was only 39 years old. The doctors gave her approximately 6 months to live. I can still remember the feeling: shock, disbelief, fear. Like any parent or grandparent, all I could think about was my family. What was going to happen to my son and granddaughters? How were they going to survive? At that point in my life, I thought I understood financial planning reasonably well. I had owned businesses, I had invested, but I was about to learn something. Like most people, I believed life insurance was simply a death benefit. I thought you had to die for it to have value. I was wrong. Lynn had a life insurance policy that contained a terminal illness rider. Because of that provision, she was able to access a significant portion of the death benefit while alive. The money was tax-free. It provided resources during an incredibly difficult time. It helped protect my son's family financially, and it gave them options they otherwise would not have had. When Lynn passed away about a year later, there was enough money remaining to help them start over. Without that policy, my son's family would have faced financial devastation on top of emotional devastation. That experience opened my eyes. I started asking questions. How many people know these strategies exist? How many are relying on advice that may not be giving them the full picture? Then, life gave me another lesson. Not long after Lynn's passing, my daughter Nicole was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was young, she had a family. Thankfully, Nicole survived. In fact, she recently celebrated 10 years cancer-free. But the story didn't end there. Years later, she developed Graves' disease and eventually a serious condition called thyroid eye disease. The treatments were extraordinarily expensive. One infusion cost over $30,000. Another approached $250,000. Eventually, the disease returned. Doctors told her there was little they could do. My daughter traveled to specialists in major medical centers searching for answers. Some treatments were unavailable. Others weren't covered by insurance. Watching all of this reinforced something. Most financial plans are designed around ideal circumstances, but life rarely follows an ideal path. People get sick, markets decline, tax laws change. The question isn't whether life will surprise us. The question is whether we're financially prepared when it does. Those experiences changed the direction of my life. I became obsessed with understanding taxes, retirement planning, risk management, income planning, and structure. I wanted to understand how people could better protect themselves and their families. I wanted to understand why some families were able to weather difficult storms. And over time, I discovered something interesting. Most people don't have an investment problem. Most people don't have a savings problem. Most people have a planning problem. They've worked hard. They've accumulated assets. They've done many things right, but nobody has ever shown them how all the pieces fit together. That's why I'm passionate about helping people today, especially successful professionals, people who have spent decades building careers and contributing to retirement plans. Because retirement isn't just about growing assets, it's about protecting them, it's about creating flexibility, it's about reducing unnecessary taxes, it's about making sure your money serves you instead of the other way around. And most importantly, it's about making sure the people you care about are protected. With that foundation in mind, let's talk about the 5 retirement risks most people never see coming. Remember, education changes outcomes, strategy changes futures.